Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. Hey, folks, welcome back. I'm with Adam Keys from Land & Legacy, and we're talking about food plots. And this is a segment of Adam's discussion on food plots this afternoon. And Adam, the topic for the next 30 minutes or so is you got to give them grow. You got to grow what the deer want, not what you think they want, not what the TV, all-star or not
what the people are telling you to buy.
Well, the marketing people, I was stumbling over my words, but it's the greatest thing in the world, and we all fall for marketing. A huge buck, gorgeous green field, and you got to have X. If you have X in this bottle, if you put this on your thing, or if you plant with Y, you're gonna have booners, out the network. I'll guarantee you, if there's no sperm, there's no studs in the forest that have 180 class genes, you're going to have it.
That's right. I'll add to that. You got to give them what they want, but you also got to give them what they need. And then you got to give them what you can provide them. If they need carbs and you don't have any open ground, as far as you can't give them corn or you can't give them soybeans. So we'll digest this, I guess, the best we can from you got to give them what they want. You got to give them what they need. And as we talked pre-recording, I think one of the biggest things we see with our Land & Legacy consulting business is looking at something and going, okay, when we look at food plots, 9 times out of 10, we're planting food plots because we want to have more hunting success. We want to be able to at least attract more deer on the property. Maybe we're not hunting over it, but we know that there's more deer in the area because that food plot's there. 9 times out of 10, that's why we're planting food plots. It's just so we can increase our hunting success. Now, when it comes to gotta give them what they want, let's look at it and say, okay, what do they want? What do they need? And when we look at what's in the neighborhood, that's one of the biggest things. One of the properties I hunt is a working cattle farm, and there is alfalfa fields. I don't know how many acres, lots and lots and lots and lots of acres devoted to alfalfa because the farmer bales it for hay. So it's food for the cows, but it's also a great legume. So it's great forage for the plant a clover food plot, which is right there, providing the same thing as providing protein, I'm not going to have very good success hunting that because they have 200 plus acres of alfalfa that they can go eat on. And so coming in that little clover patch isn't doing them any good. So look at what's lacking in the neighborhood as far as what the deer need, and then try to fill that void. Don't look at it of, well, this is just what I'm going to plant, and let's hope that it's fantastic and expect to see the same food plot that you see on the bag and the same buck standing in it that you see on the bag.
Because that just doesn't work. And as we said before, it might work. I better put a comment in.
It might work.
It might work. It might work. That's my disclaimer. It might work. But you think about things, and July comes and everything's growing. The deer are out there. Their coats are slick and they're looking good. And the fawns are rumping and stomping, and some bucks are starting to, grow out, and you're getting some, what's coming along, and you're starting to dream about your hit list, and August comes, and then all of a sudden something changes. And in your opinion, what changes? Is that magic time all of a sudden, where'd all the deer go, sort of, kind of?
Well, I think I know where you're going with this, because we talked about it a little bit, but for me, in the Ozark Mountains of southern Missouri, notorious, just as the sun comes up every morning, the same thing happens almost every single year, I guess I should say, and clarify that every single year, early fall, deer vanish from the alfalfa fields or the food plots, or they just vanish in their normal summer patterns. Where do they go? Almost always it's because the acorns started dropping, and white oaks and the red oaks have started dropping. Traditionally, it's the white oaks first, and that's as we said, you can have the best food plot in the world, the best food plot in the neighborhood, but when the acorns start falling, there's a good chance they're going to start eating acorns. So that's one of those things that you just can't outcompete.
And why do the deer know there's more nutrition, the protein content and all the protein? How do they know that? Is mama taught them to do that, or how does that work? Because they know it.
It's instinct. It's not necessarily like there's some food plots you could plant that probably be better forage than an acorn. But the thing about it is with an acorn is they've been doing it from the creation of a deer, is they've been eating acorns. And so regardless, you can't take that instinct out of them, that natural, that wild animal out of them and say, okay, because if you do, if you were successful in getting deer to stop eating acorns, what's the difference between them and a cow? There really isn't much. You've domesticated them. The wild part about them is they eat wild vegetation, and a lot of times, that's the form of an acorn.
I was hunting elk in New Mexico years back, and we got into shrooming bulls.
Yeah,
shrooming bulls. Yeah, the bulls will find the mushrooms, and it's like 2 or 3 days, and you just got to be there. You can't figure it out. But it's a certain elevation, it's a certain everything, and when these mushrooms start coming up, they'll literally stay on that contour and circle them out, eating those mushrooms. And I love mushrooms, and so do Bill Elk. And the first time I saw it, and we're seeing the elk, and they're talking, and they're doing all those wonderful things, and the guy just runs away from them. He says, we're going to intercept them. And so we shut up. We just, played the wind, did everything right. And, didn't close the deal, but it didn't matter. It was something I'd never seen. And shrooming bulls that's what we call them, because it was that defined time. That's what they wanted to eat. They had all the other forage in the forest, but they were on mushrooms.
Totally. Yeah. I think of a couple times whenever, growing up hunting, there was one farm that I got permission to hunt on, kind of a weird scenario, but all of a sudden we started noticing deer on a defined pattern going from southeast to northwest. It was like, where are they going? And in the mornings they were coming back and they were walking across a pasture, and we could not figure out where in the world they were coming from, because we're like, there's a house up there. And that only happened for about 10 days. And what we figured out one night driving by the guy's house is there was a pile of deer standing in his yard, and they were all eating under an Arkansas black apple tree. And while that tree was producing fruit that year, there was no acorns. That was the best food source in the neighborhood, and that's where they all went. We we tried to take advantage of the best we could, and we saw a pile of deer during that little stretch of the window before they ate all the apples up.
And that's but they don't have any texting. They don't have cell phones. They don't, they do communicate. They're very vocal, actually. But it's just, the instinct part of it, and the old does know, I guess, if it isn't here, it's over here, and they can smell it. It's interesting to figure all that out if you think about that.
Oh, it's one of the greatest things about them is trying to figure that out. To me, that's probably one of the most fun things about it is just trying to figure out that animal and going, okay, where are they going? And not just that, where are they going? Obviously, at that point, we knew they were going to that apple tree, but okay, where's the bucks? Because they're probably going to get there a little later. Where are they bedding, and where can we get to them before dark, or before, basically, so we can see them during daylight? That's the fun part.
So my takeaway from this change of eating is simply, to back off. Don't keep pounding that field. Don't expect them to be there where they have been, and just back off and go find them. But find them from a distance. Just find them from a distance and go, oh, and they might not be on your farm. The bad thing is they might not be on your land. And okay, but they'll probably come back to your land because you usually see them again. But if you can figure that out, then you can start putting in your journal, say, September 10th, they disappeared, but they went to Barney's place because of X, whatever it is. And that's how you learn, and that's how you become a better hunter, because then if you can, you intercept them.
Yep. And I think that goes into the strategy of food plots, of trying to figure out what to plant that's going to be the most successful thing for you. And here in timber country, you look at it and go, okay, there's not a whole lot of corn or spilled grain during the winter, during those cold hunts, November through January, during hunting season, where, okay, by that point, most of the acorns are ate up. There's not as many of them, and you need a much better food source. So probably the most success we're going to have hunting will be a late season food plot. So that may be in the form of, and we always preach planting diversity and trying to replicate nature, but you can plant diversity but still have standing soybeans or standing corn. You just add those other things with it. So if you plant soybeans or corn in the spring, that fall you turn around and you broadcast your greens, your wheat, and oats and turnips, even some clovers in there, to where you have that diversity, to where if the acorns are ate up early in the season, or you don't have an acorn crop, you still have food available, but you're preparing for that success of when the acorns are ate up, you have plenty of quality food source to hunt on during the latter part of the season.
And it gets back, I'm staying on this, disappearance time. It gets back to these smaller food plots that you can entice them with something, that they really like. And it may work and may not. I don't know that, but
that's a great point. I think when you look at, okay, what are they going to do? We know they're going to feed during the night, and they're going to bed down during the day, typically. So how do we know where they're going to bed down and where they're going to feed? Well, if you have a woodlot that's got great acorns scattered through it, and that's the time of the year to where they're eating acorns, is, okay, I know they're going there, but I know they're bedding here. How about we place a little kill plot, a little transition plot in between the two, probably closer to the bedding area. That way I can slip in and hunt that as they're working their way to the big chunk of timber where all the acorns are at.
And what would you put in to entice them? I'm thinking, because this is September pre-rut. It's mid to late September, sort of. And
great question.
What do we put on the ground to entice them to say, man, I want to munch on that a little bit?
And that goes with the question of what can I plant? You got to plant what they want, but if you go into that little bitty, and when we say kill plot, let's say it's always under 3/4 of an acre, to where it's something you can shoot all the way across. So it's 40 yards wide. You can't plant soybeans in there because they're going to eat them in the summer, and there's not a chance that they're going to make it. You can't plant corn in there because you might get some growth, but there's too much competition with the surrounding trees. So one of the best things you can plant would be a blend of clover, that being the majority of that food plot area. That way it can grow and produce great forage even with the trees around, but most importantly, it can take the browse pressure that would likely happen being that close to the bedding area.
So we get bedding area, we're up within 100 yards, 200 yards, depending on your 40, because they could be bedding in a little swamp, go up a ridge, and then it's the acorn trees, and they're munching. I mean, we're talking 100 yards.
That's right, yeah. And it may not, that's where it comes down to, you may want to put a food plot in between the two, but it's side slope, and there's not a chance. You're going to do more damage than good, and that's often, no matter what we're doing, food plotting, prescribed fire, timber stand improvement, we ask ourselves, are we leaving a good footprint 10 years and 50 years down the road to where what we did was beneficial, or is it more detrimental? And if it's beneficial, we'll do it. If it's detrimental, we're not going to do it.
And what I just said, folks, is that's why you need a plan for your land management plan. You know, everybody knows what that stands for. Adams Warren, QDMA, check them out. I mean, you get all the information in the world you could want from those guys. And it's just go to QDMA.com or .org. Is it .org or .com? I think it's .org.
.com.
It's .com. And go there. But land management is so important because it'll help you figure out where you can put up the best situation for your food plots, for your stands, for your sanctuaries, the bedding covered, all that, and it'll make sense. And as in their name, Land and Legacy, it can be, ongoing for 10 years. I got a friend in Wisconsin. He's been growing and managing a plot of land, 40 acres. And every year he takes a 140-ish, 150-ish deer or better amongst competition.
Yeah.
It's taken him that long to get there. And he doesn't have a lot of stands on his 40 acres, but he's planned it out. I mean, he knows almost every tree's named, I think, but he's put that much into it, and it's amazing, what he's done. And it's just because he started off, he said, how am I going to compete here along the Mississippi River, Trumbull County, Buffalo County, area, good bucks, good genes, everything was there. But, like I used to do, hey, it's a legal buck, boom, let's go to the bar, let's go to the bar. When I was in college and growing up, I mean, it was your hunting has changed because it was a tradition. Why? There was 10 to 20 people hunting in our group. We meet at the farmhouse and, okay, you go here. There'll be a guy just like hunting in Europe. There's a hunt master and he says, you go here, you go here, you go here, you're going to drive. And then, this is what we're going to do. And we'll see everybody in about an hour back at the barn. And that's what you did. And boom, 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 boom. You killed 2 deer or 5 deer or 10 deer. It didn't really matter because we ate them.
That's right.
We ate them and made jackets and all sorts of good stuff with them.
Oh, I kind of miss those days, to be honest with you, of hunting in deer camp.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I can just remember the barn, and you'd pull up, and then they'd have lights and stuff, and these big plank tables, and there'd always be something for the morning, and then when you come back in, it'd be lunchtime, and there'd be lunch, and then you'd hang the deer, then you come back, and then we take care of the deer before start playing cards or having a beer or whatever. And then you'd have a feast. I mean, you'd have, whatever, and there'd be 10 or 20 people, kids and women and, and the old guys, the elders, which I am now, they're telling stories. Well, I remember, Jimmy Jones, man, he missed that buck back in 06 and they start telling stories.
Oh, I love it.
It's just the stories. And folks, I'm a little off food plots, but, I just kicked into, hunting is a tradition and it's the stories and it's the fellowship and, it's all those types of things that, the non-hunters don't get. And if you're listening to this, if you don't hunt, get around somebody that has hunted and their whole family's hunted and just listen to the stories. Because
Totally.
killing doesn't take long. It takes me about 3 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger, and the bullet's gone, and it's over in less than a second.
That's right. When you think about it too, how do you talked about anti-hunters or non-hunters? Um, Look at it from a standpoint. I try to ask myself this question of going, what's the best chance we have at getting them into the outdoors? Is it gonna be by saying, hey, you want to come deer hunting because you want to try and kill this really big deer? Or is it going to be, hey, you ought to come to deer camp. We're going to fry up a bunch of this food. And we're going to hang out. We're going to play some cards. We're going to have a lot of laughs. And then we may get up and go hunting. We may not go hunting. If we kill something, we know we're going to eat it. I think that's going to be the better way to get them in the outdoors than saying, hey, you need to start this because you want to have the biggest buck on the wall.
Yeah, and I showed you that picture earlier. On the Rogers farm along the Buffalo River. It'll be my 52nd year this fall.
That's awesome.
Isn't it? You just think of that. The family's there's not 20 people anymore.
Yeah, how many people hunt it now?
Well, we got 30 on the farm, and you can't hunt it. And as the kids grew, everybody has got a 160 of his own, or 180, or a 40, or and a 20, and we killed deer on 20 acres, along that river, because we sort of kind of know it and do things, sort of kind of learn a couple things along the way. We got one stand, and if you do it right, you can kill deer. We got one behind the storage sheds, and every year somebody will go in there and kill a buck and a doe on opening day. Why? Because it's a bull. I mean, this thing is 200 yards off a highway behind storage sheds, and it's just a bull. There's plenty of thermal cover with a stand of pines, and there's oaks, and it's a bowl with just grasses growing in. So a la bedding area, right? Sanctuary, right? So we got a ground blind in there. We take a kid in there, drop him in there. Every opening weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, you just got to sit it through. You will kill a deer in there, consecutively. I mean, it's surrounded by houses. It's in the county, but there's houses there and stuff. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. When you start thinking, that's 20 acres.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest misconceptions is you got to have big land to kill big deer. But man, you have the right 20 or even the right 5 or 6 acres.
Heck yeah.
Right. You can kill good deer.
And, it's the family's land, so we can hunt it, but there's people right up on the ridge. They're listening to us banging away.
Oh yeah.
It's just funny. So, but let's get back to, you got to give whitetails what they want when they want it. And that's the other thing. And we talked about this, and I know a lot of people like to feed deer, but deer are ruminates. And so, they eat a specific thing, and more about this, the biology of it. But when they break down, browse is what they winter on. And, in Wisconsin, some of the deer yards were notorious before the wolves came in. Huge acreage, and you can see the browse line where they go up. They couldn't get any higher, and they get this deer yard so they could just lay there and move around and feast, and that's all they had. I mean, there wasn't anything else. Now with supplemental feeding, everything it changes. But tell us about the pros and the cons of supplemental feeding, for deer during the wintertime.
So during the wintertime, as you mentioned, being ruminants, as they're eating different things, they're building up bacteria to where they can basically break down their food. And if you go out in an area to where deer have not consumed any corn, and you just start dumping corn on the ground and they start eating it, they haven't built up the bacteria in their gut to break it down. So basically, you're going to end up killing them because they can't break down that food. And they have a belly full of corn and they die of starvation, basically. So that's definitely something you need to look out for. That's why we preach so much about land management, habitat improvement. Is hopefully you can do some things on your farm to where you don't have to rely on the bag of corn. You can know that they're getting quite a bit of food in the work that you've done. And sometimes and a lot of times it's just as simple as going out with a chainsaw and cutting down some trees that aren't going to have any income in the future. So you're cutting species that are just softwoods and they're never going to make a valuable log. And you're cutting that tree down, and now you're taking the canopy of that tree and you're making to where there's all this forage available, or forage up high, 100 foot in the air, and then you're bringing it back down to where a deer can reach it. And that's in the form of young growth and young forest regeneration. And so a lot of times that's what we do in TSI projects is go in and cut the trees that aren't ever going to make any value and know that what comes back, whether it's that tree sprouting or it's all the weeds and other forbs and things that are growing around it because you open up the canopy and let sunlight hit the forest floor. So in the real estate side of it, I'm a real estate agent as well. As you look at the farms that look ugly because there was a logging operation that went on, and you're thinking, man, it's ugly. There's so much growing. There's so much underbrush. But that's where all the food, that's where all your native food is in that native vegetation. So food plots aren't as important in on those farms as it could be in a farm that's got wide open park setting where you can see 200 foot or 200 yards through the timber.
And with that, folks, we're gonna close up on, you got to grow what they want and have it there when they want it. And that's what we're going to talk about. Great segue. Whoa, did I do that smoothly? So the next segment, we're gonna talk about, having food Jan 1 through December 31st consistently.
That's right.
But you got to give them what they want, when they want it, and what they need. If they know what they need, you just got to help them find it. So with that, Adam, how do people get in touch with you? Should they want to reach out and have a discussion?
Check us out on landandlegacy.tv. You can shoot us a message on there and an email, or check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Land and Legacy. That's with the & sign. And you can shoot us a message there. We'll get back to you as soon as we can.
And with that, we're going to step up on the last closing section, Food Plot 365. Hey, folks, a special edition of Whitetail Rendezvous is coming. I've asked 3 companies, Land and Legacy, Rackology, and Grandpa Ray Outdoors, to be part of a series on land management and food plots. So the next few episodes, about 18 of them, in fact, are going to be about either land management or food plots. Why? Because people have been asking me a lot of questions. So I went out and chatted with some guys, and Adam Keith and Matt Dye from Land and Legacy is joining the crew. And at Rackology, we have Jason Obermiller and Eric Fitzgerald. And rounding out the team is Grandpa Ray Outdoors with John O'Brien. Each of them is going to bring a different flavor on what is land management, what are food plots, why you need them, the pros and cons. So listen up to the next series, and I sure hope you like them. If you like them, let me know. If you don't like them, let me know what I can do better.
Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.